You step out of the darkness and into sunlight, and for a fleeting moment, the world seems brighter, sharper, yet somehow emptier. The familiar contours of life, routines, expectations, comforts, begin to dissolve beneath the weight of clarity. Everything you once held on to feels fragile, like sand slipping through fingers that were certain they could grasp it. The world you knew begins to unravel. Not suddenly, not with violence, but quietly, insistently. The illusions you once relied upon, the stories of security, identity, belonging, fade like mist under the morning sun, and you are left standing, exposed, with nothing but awareness itself, and a strange ache that is both frightening and liberating. You notice how deeply you have depended on the constructs of life, your plans, ambitions, and roles, carefully curated over years, suddenly appear artificial, fragile, inconsequential. The very walls of comfort you built for yourself start to crack under the light of understanding. You feel both grief and relief, as if the weight of pretense has been lifted, even as it leaves a hollow space inside. The first recognition of loss comes quietly, without fanfare. It is the loss of illusions, the dissolution of certainty, the sudden awareness that everything you trusted was provisional. Friends, careers, achievements, even familiar beliefs. They are not wrong, but they no longer anchor you. And in their absence, you glimpse something deeper, the raw, unmediated reality of consciousness, shining beneath the constructs you once clung to. There's fear in this clarity. You look around and see the world unchanged, moving with the same rhythms, repeating the same dances. But your perception has shifted. The eyes that once accepted appearances now pierce through them. And suddenly, the familiar feels alien. The comfort you once knew dissolves, leaving space for truth. And with it, the first pang of loneliness that accompanies awakening. Yet, beneath the unease, there is serenity. You sense that what has been lost was never truly yours, that the illusions you inhabited were scaffolding for the mind, not the home of the soul. The impermanence of all things is not tragedy, but revelation. The more that falls away, the clearer the light of awareness becomes. By the time the sun fully rises, you understand that awakening is not acquisition, but subtraction. What you gain is clarity. What you lose is everything that kept you asleep. And in that loss lies the doorway to freedom. A freedom that demands courage, presence, and the willingness to see life exactly as it is, uncolored by expectation or habit. The moment of awakening is quiet, subtle, and profound. It strips you bare, yet it reveals the only thing worth holding. Consciousness itself, luminous, enduring, and alive. The familiar rhythm of your days feels hollow now. Morning routines, once comforting, coffee, commute, greetings, suddenly echo with emptiness. The gestures of life, repeated and rehearsed, no longer provide the reassurance they once did. Even the people you once leaned on seem distant. Their smiles and routines faint reflections of a world you no longer inhabit fully. Every relationship begins to feel fragile. The conversations that once seemed effortless now carry weight you cannot ignore. Friends speak, but their words sound rehearsed. Family gestures feel ritualized, habitual, lacking the depth you now crave. And yet, you cannot fault them. The world itself is designed to comfort the asleep. The comfort you once took for granted was not reality. It was a carefully constructed illusion that kept you moving, distracted. Content, roles, titles, accolades, the scaffolding of identity, begin to dissolve under the light of awareness. The job you perform with pride, the habits that once defined your hours, even the moral frameworks you once relied upon, all feel provisional. You notice that the comfort you chased was built on selective ignorance, a surrender to appearances, a willingness to accept what was convenient rather than true. There is grief in this realization, the ease of ignorance, the shelter of certainty, the warmth of familiarity. All these comforts vanish the moment you awaken, and it is bitter, not in a dramatic or crushing way, but in the subtle ache of recognition. Life as you knew it was always half illusory. The stability you counted on, the safety you assumed, were only ever temporary, fleeting, fragile constructs. Yet, even in this grief, there is insight. The disappearance of comfort is not punishment. It is the necessary preparation for presence. When illusions of ease fall away, awareness takes root. The awakened soul learns to inhabit reality as it is, not as a series of protections or conveniences, but as living, breathing consciousness, vibrant and raw. You begin to notice the paradox. What was once painful, the stripping away of ease, is precisely what allows clarity to flourish. The mind, unencumbered by illusions, can now perceive the subtle currents of life, the hidden patterns, the unspoken truths. You see more deeply than ever before, and with this vision comes both freedom and sorrow. And so, you sit quietly amidst the vanished comforts, watching the familiar world continue its motions, unaware that the foundation beneath it has shifted. The ease you once relied upon is gone, leaving you with nothing but awareness, presence, and the bittersweet knowledge that you stand in the midst of a bustling crowd, yet feel entirely alone. Faces move past you, voices chatter, feet shuffle, and in the middle of it all, a quiet awareness settles. You are awake, and they are not. The world hums with collective pretense, and you see it clearly, yet few notice, and fewer understand. True awareness creates distance. The very clarity that illuminates reality also separates you from those around you. Friends, family, colleagues, they move in patterns you no longer follow. The jokes that once resonated now feel hollow. The conversations that once flowed effortlessly now carry invisible weight. And this separation is not born of pride. It is born of perception. You recognize illusions, they cling to the routines, the comfort, the narratives of safety, and you can no longer partake in them without betraying your own insight. Even love becomes more subtle, more measured. Attachment without discernment feels false. You feel unseen, misunderstood, even if others believe they know you intimately. And yet, the solitude is necessary. The ache of isolation is soft, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable to the one who sees too clearly. Your soul whispers for understanding, yet knows that to expect it from the unawakened is futile. The world you once inhabited with ease now appears distant, and you begin to understand that awakening is always accompanied by quiet exile. If you have ever felt this quiet distance, tell me below. Your words might remind someone else that they're not the only one navigating clarity in a sleeping world. And in this solitude, a paradox emerges. Though separation carries sorrow, it also grants space. The mind and heart can breathe, unbound by the expectations or illusions of others. The pain of isolation is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the fertile soil where wisdom can take root, where insight can flourish without compromise, where presence becomes unshakable. You notice that those around you continue in their familiar patterns, unaware of the depth you now inhabit. Yet this does not breed anger or resentment. It breeds patience. It breeds compassion tempered by discernment. You are awake, but you do not impose. You see without interference. You witness without needing validation. And you walk the quiet path of clarity with integrity. By the time the sun dips behind the horizon, you feel the gentle weight of your distance and understand that solitude is not absence, but alignment. The isolation you endure is not a penalty, but a necessary companion on the journey. It is a space in which the awakened soul prepares to return, ready to navigate life with eyes fully open and a heart fully aware. True awakening comes at the cost of comfort. You begin to question everything you once believed. The truths that felt solid, personal, cultural, social, suddenly quiver, as though the ground beneath them has softened. The beliefs you built your life upon, carefully stacked like stones, reveal themselves to be provisional, fragile, and fleeting. It begins subtly at first. A conversation that once reinforced certainty now feels hollow. A long-held assumption about yourself about the world. It is exposed as a narrative shaped more by habit than by insight. You notice the stories everyone tells themselves to feel safe, and realize that you too once relied on them, and perhaps still do, in ways you hadn't acknowledged. The internal tension grows. Cognitive dissonance surfaces in quiet moments, a slight unease in decisions, a questioning of motivations, a subtle disorientation in familiar routines. The mind resists at first, clinging to familiar frameworks, even as the soul whispers that holding on to certainty is no longer possible. Every structure that promised understanding begins to fall away. Religion, philosophy, societal rules, and even personal identity appear as scaffolding, necessary once but now constraining. And in their collapse, you feel an emptiness that is both terrifying and liberating. The known world is gone. In its place stands uncertainty, vast, unmapped, and profoundly alive. Yet, within this uncertainty lies the first taste of freedom. The mind no longer bends to rigid narratives. It opens to possibility, to subtlety, to depth. The awareness that once sought concrete answers now rests in observation, in inquiry, in patience. Certainty, it seems, was never a gift. It was a safety net that kept you half asleep. Acceptance is the key, not resignation, but recognition. Uncertainty is essential. The ephemeral nature of understanding is not failure, but the foundation upon which true insight grows. The awakened no longer clings to truth as a possession, but perceives it as a living, shifting presence, ever adapting, ever revealing, ever teaching. You feel the cost of awakening here, the intellectual tension, the absence of solid footing, the quiet isolation of seeing the instability of everything once held as fixed. And yet, there is clarity in the flux. By letting go of certainty, you discover a deeper intelligence, one that does not grasp at answers, but listens, perceives, and moves with life's subtle currents. As the day wanes, you stand amidst the impermanence of beliefs, feeling both unmoored and anchored. The death of certainty is not loss alone. It is transformation. It strips away the illusions of knowledge to reveal understanding, and prepares the mind for the awakening that lies beyond the familiar. You look down at the water and see your reflection, distorted by ripples, fragmented, shifting, elusive, and for the first time, you realize that the self you have carried so faithfully, the labels, the titles, the roles, the carefully curated identity, was never as solid as you believed. The surface quivers, revealing depth beneath the illusion. The old self begins to dissolve quietly. Habits you once took for granted, opinions once held as truth, attachments that shaped your days, all loosen their grip as awareness deepens. It is not a dramatic collapse, but a subtle unraveling, like threads loosening from a tapestry that has long been woven. Every fragment of identity you cling to now feels unnecessary. The pride in accomplishments, the fear of failure, the stories you told to define yourself, they all begin to fall away, leaving a naked presence, consciousness itself, unadorned, luminous, and free. You feel the weight lift, but also a strange ache for the comfort of certainty, for the self that once seemed permanent. Transformation is not painless. There is grief in losing the familiar, a momentary disorientation, as if the ground beneath you is shifting. You search for stability in a world that now feels simultaneously familiar and alien. Yet each wave of loss reveals a deeper reality. What remains is not fragile, not constructed, not fleeting. It is the awareness that observes, perceives, and simply is. You see that your former self was necessary for path, a vessel that carried you until it could carry no more. And now, as the layers peel away, you glimpse a freedom previously unknown. You are no longer defined by expectation, attachment, or fear. You can move through life with presence, fully awake, fully aligned, guided not by identity, but by consciousness itself. The mirror of water calms, and your reflection stabilizes. It is no longer a caricature of labels or titles, but a clear image of awareness inhabiting life directly. You understand the paradox. Liberation comes not from acquiring something new, but from surrendering what you thought you were. The ego shrinks, the self dissolves, and in its absence, a more expansive freedom emerges. This transformation shapes your perception of the world. The patterns that once seemed threatening now appear neutral. The judgments of others hold less sway, and even the fleeting illusions of control feel lighter, almost playful. You walk forward as both witness and participant, free from the weight of your previous self, yet enriched by every step that brought you here. And in the quiet moments, by the water, by the light, you feel the first glimpses of liberation beyond ego, a self that is not constructed, a presence that is fully alive, and a consciousness capable of embracing the flow of life without resistance. The first light of dawn spills across a quiet landscape, painting hills and valleys in gold and shadow. The world is waking slowly, yet you are already awake, standing at the threshold of understanding, feeling the depth of what has been shed, the losses you once mourned, comfort, certainty, identity, illusion, now reveal themselves as gifts, subtle, luminous, transformative. Loss is not empty. It creates space where authenticity can emerge, where clarity can take root, where the soul can breathe freely. Each layer that fell away carried a lesson. Each piece left behind was necessary for the self to expand. The grief once sharp now softens into wisdom, and the pain that seemed unbearable now feels sacred. A sculptor shaping the contours of your consciousness. You reflect on the moments you resisted change, clinging to security, to roles, to the familiar, and notice how each attachment you released opened room for something truer. The friendships, habits, and certainties once deemed essential were scaffolding for the mind, not nourishment for the soul. And as they dissolve, the soul discovers its own depth, its own unshakable presence, its own rhythm beyond expectation. There is beauty in this revelation. The awakened now moves through life with awareness tempered by compassion. The clarity gained through loss is not rigid. It is flexible, gentle, alive. You can hold the world without needing to control it, embrace truth without demanding others conform, and witness life unfolding without fear or attachment. The mind becomes a mirror of quiet understanding. The heart, once burdened by what it could not grasp, now opens fully to the flow of experience. Even the echoes of former pain are no longer weighty, but guides, like stars visible after the storm has passed, illuminating the path of conscious living. And as the sun rises higher, warming the landscape, you recognize the ultimate paradox. What seemed like loss was always preparation. What felt like absence was always the space for presence. The shedding of what kept you asleep was necessary to awaken fully to what keeps you truly alive. You smile softly, feeling the subtle pulse of life around you, knowing that awakening is not the addition of something new, but the integration of everything you have endured. The soul, refined by loss, moves lightly and firmly, carrying wisdom without attachment, freedom without fear, and presence without need for validation. And in this quiet, transcendental moment, you finally understand. You lose what keeps you asleep, only to gain what keeps you truly alive.